Hey, what is happening, you cry baby bag on? So Champions League Kyoto concluded over the weekend, and Lost Box did win, but we're finally starting to get all of the deck lists from the top 16. I don't quite have all of them here, and we have like 10 of them. I don't know when we're going to get all 16 either, so I thought I was like, well, I could wait a little while to do this video, or we got 10 of them right now. Most of the most interesting ones are available as well, so let's just go ahead, let's just jump right into it, and let's take a look at them all and break them all down. But before we do that, I'm sure you're wondering, Azul, the shirts you're always wearing are so cool and so dope. Thank you, they are. Where do I get them? And the answer to that is qualitypatchdesigns.com. Check them out over there. Link, of course, will be in the description. Not only do they have the t-shirts, but they have a bunch of other dope Pokemon merch as well. And the coolest thing they do there, or the thing I think that is coolest that they do there, is they turn card artworks into t-shirts. And if you're the first person to get that artwork on a t-shirt, you get a little first edition stamp on there as well. qualitypatchdesigns.com, link in the description. Use code AzulGG, get yourself a discount as well. And yeah, let's take a look at these deck lists. So tournament was won by the Lost Pile, or that's what I've been calling these kind of Lost Zone decks, where they kind of got a bunch of stuff in them. Pile is usually kind of feels like it's a negative term. There's nothing negative about being called a pile deck. It just means you got a lot going on, and you can potentially do a lot with the archetype in general. So the standout cards here, of course, are going to be the main attackers in the deck. A lot of builds like this can sometimes attack with Greninja, sometimes attack with Sableye. This one has the one Sableye, has the water energy for the Greninja, and then also has the Roaring Moon, Iron Hands, Raikou, and Kyogre as the main go-to attackers in the deck. And the main purpose, or the main way these builds kind of win games, is their focus is to just kind of try and draw 2 prize cards every single turn, whether that be through Iron Hands or Roaring Moon. And of course, when you have a little bit of a slower start, you can go with an early Cram attack, or when your opponent doesn't get Manaphy in play, or they think you can't attack with Greninja, you can hit with the Greninja for 2 prize cards as well. And the games where you get like that early Cram knockout, then you can clean up another 1 prizer with a Sableye at some point to get those 2 prize cards put together. And then you have Kyogre in here, which is really, really powerful, like up against the Miraidon matchup specifically. And I mean, Kyogre is just like the best attacker in the game. Well, not the best attacker in the game, has the most powerful attack in the game. 250 damage, potentially to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It doesn't really get better than that. Another standout card in here for me is the Ditto. I actually saw a lot of people playing the Ditto in their Lost Zone decks over in Japan. Definitely got me intrigued. I think I'm going to give the Ditto a try in some of my Lost Zone decks moving forward. But yeah, we saw it in the Lost Piles. We also saw it in the Tina builds as well. Just over in Japan, they love the Ditto in the Lost Zone decks. And it does kind of make sense. Basically, the main purpose behind it is effectively a 5th Comfey that you could open with. Opening Comfey is very, very good in Lost Zone decks. So it increases your odds of opening Comfey as your initial starting Pokemon. But then also, you're going to need to get more Comfeys in play anyways, so you could Nest Ball or Battle VIP Pass for the Ditto, get it into the active, turn it into a Comfey, and then use the ability after that. And it like gets the Ditto out of the deck, so it's not just like a dead card in your deck anymore at that point. But yeah, those are like the main standouts here. Lost Pile, very similar to what Tord kind of brought to the table back in Gdansk. And I think I even saw on Twitter that the player who won this tournament said that they based their build off of what Tord had initially done with the deck back in Gdansk, then Stuttgart. Yeah, Gdansk. So yeah, Lost Pile doing really well. I was actually really surprised that, kind of speaking about Lost Pile in general, that Lost Pile had such a bad showing at San Antonio. I put it in the only deck it was the only deck in A tier for me in my tier list going into San Antonio. So I was really surprised to see Lost Pile do so poorly overall at San Antonio. Did not really show up really at all. I think there was one in top 16, maybe it was a top 32. I think it was top 16 though. But that's, you know, overall that's like the one in the top 64 or something. It was kind of ridiculous, yeah. So I expect more out of it moving forward. We see here at Champions League takes the dub, but then going forward to like Portland, Charlotte, all that fun stuff, I expect to see a little bit more. The runner-up was the Roaring Moon deck, and I did actually put out a gameplay video with the Roaring Moon deck here on the YouTube channel, so if you want to check that out so you can get a little bit more in-depth knowledge on the deck and how to play it, check that out. This build is really cool. This is by far the most fun I've ever had playing Roaring Moon, and to be honest, this did not feel worse than any other build of Roaring Moon. I used to be kind of hung up on the idea that you really want to play the water energy and the energy switches for the potential to attack with Greninja, sometimes Luminium, but not really. Because otherwise the deck felt way too linear. Well, that's what I thought. But after playing this build, to be honest, and kind of the more consistency of it compared to something like the Energy Switch Water Energy, because honestly the Energy Switches kind of suck. They're really just there to kind of pull off plays with Greninja. You can still like Sada to 2 Roaring Moons and then like Energy Switch 1 energy from 1 Roaring Moon to another, and those plays could come up, but they wasn't really that common or like that necessary. Like Energy Switch wasn't necessary to play in the deck. It was just kind of cool because you could also play Water Energy and then possibly attack with Greninja. But after playing this, the Cross Seaver Darkrai V-Star build of Roaring Moon, like I'm kind of throwing that all out the window and being like, this just felt way better, way more fun to play, enjoyable to play. I've never played Cross Seaver in a deck before. These cards are sick. They can recover Pokemon. I thought they could only recover supporters until I started playing games with it on PTCG Live. So super sick build. By far my favorite way to play Roaring Moon right now. And to be honest, it could just be the best way to play Roaring Moon as well. The Cross Seavers plus the Darkrai. The Darkrai V-Star was definitely the most impressive part of the deck. I did test out Darkrai V-Star at the beginning of the format and was really underwhelmed by it. And the Cross Seavers do add like another layer to it, some more utility you can get out of the Darkrai V-Star's V-Star ability. And for those of you that don't know, Darkrai's V-Star ability allows you to get 2 item cards from your discard pile. So you can use the ability to get 2 Cross Seavers, or maybe a Cross Seaver if you have 1 in hand already, and then use both Cross Seavers to recover a Iono or a Boss or a Greninja or a Roaring Moon, because it can get Pokemon as well. You rarely get Pokemon. It's usually recovering supporters, and you combo that with Pokestop. You're going through your deck really aggressive, stacking up your items really aggressively, and yeah, it just kind of all comes together and feels really, really nice. So this is, I'm a huge fan of this list. Really loved it, really enjoyed it. Does not have a great matchup against Lost Pile with Kyogre, though. Let me tell you that. The finals was very one-sided. The Kyogre player actually prized Heavy Ball and Kyogre. They do play best of 1 in Japan, which is a little bit disappointing, but they only play best of 1. The Lost Box player prized Heavy Ball and Kyogre, and was able to put it together eventually. Go check out my VOD where I VOD reviewed, or not VOD reviewed, but reacted to the games live on the YouTube channel as well, if you want to check that out. That is up. Actually, that's in a video form. I actually have the top cut matches. So check that video out as well if you want to see some action from the tournament and see some of these decks in action. Top 4. We're going to start with the little bit more known quantity here in the Mew deck. DTE Mew, 2 Fusion Energy. And the reason you play the 2 Fusion Energy is because you want outs to play against Spiritomb. I'm not sold on this as an inclusion of Mew personally, but yeah, rocking the 2 Fusion Energy. There was a lot of Spiritomb in the tournament. Looking out throughout the whole tournament, there was a lot of Spiritomb, so I'm sure it did a lot of work for them. So they got the 2 fusions in here to help for Spiritomb. For the tool cards, bringing the Choice Belt back is, or not bringing the Choice Belt back, bringing the Cleansing Gloves back is interesting, but there was a lot of Gardevoir as well, and that's kind of the main matchup that Cleansing Gloves is good for. It can be good in the mirror as well, because you can do Cleansing Gloves plus Quad Tablet to 1 KO Mew VMAX, but there's also still the Choice Belt in here. And then we do have the Box of Disasters in here as well. Really good in the Charizard matchup, because after that first Charizard gets set up and knocks out your Mew VMAX, if you don't have a Box of Disaster, you actually have no way to 1 KO the Charizard. But if they do attack into a Mew VMAX with a Box of Disaster, they take that 80 damage, and then you can swing back with 2 tablets and knock it out, and then, ideally Iono Path or Judge Path them alongside that and make them work really hard to recover into that next Charizard. So yeah, the Box of Disaster is like necessary. Guardian matchup and the Charizard matchup just really, really good into both those matchups. Yeah, the Cleansing Gloves is like the most interesting tool card here, though, for sure. Like I said, mirror match, it's not really a reason to play it, but Gardevoir was pretty popular. Also, it can be like one thing people always bring up with Cleansing Gloves that I don't think is a really good reason to play Cleansing Gloves. People are like, oh, you can Psychic Leap Comfeys them with the Cleansing Gloves instead of using a tablet. It's like, you got 4 tablet, stuff in Lost Box decks doesn't have that much HP. 2 to 3 tablets throughout a game is probably all you need anyways. Like the Cleansing Gloves, like Lost Box decks are not a reason to play Cleansing Gloves, but Guardy is the main one. And there's an Avery in here as well, so they were kind of checking out for the Guardy matchup. The Cleansing Gloves do that extra damage against the Guardy EX, or even doing Psychic Leap KOs on like Curlius to try and save your tablets for a big Guardy EX KO at the end of the game. And then the Avery, they do the Mirage Step, or they just bench a bunch of Pokemon and play turn 1, hit him with the Avery, make them discard a couple, and then knock out their active. You took effectively 3 Pokemon out of play. You didn't get 3 knockouts, you only get 1 prize card, but taking 3 Pokemon out of play can really, really hurt their initial setup. So teched out heavily for the Guardy matchup with this Mew. And then the fusions as well to deal with those Spiritombs, which were out there. There was quite a few that we saw on the stream. Up next, the Gholdengo deck. I think the 2 decks, this is probably the deck that people were most excited for to see from the tournament is the Gholdengo deck, and the second one was maybe the Roaring Moon build, but I think this one is by far the one that people are most excited about, is the Gholdengo deck. So 4/4 Gholdengo, rocking the 70 HP Gimme Ghoul, protect against the Sableyes a little bit, but you're hoping to get your Gimme Ghouls into Gholdengos before Sableye comes online. But the main thing is like Iron Valiant shenanigans, or even Double Gunner stuff from the Rapid Strike deck. So protect your Gimme Ghouls, or play the higher HP Gimme Ghoul so you can hopefully get your Gholdengos more consistently. The 1/1 Palkia in here as just like an initial attacker is really interesting. It's just like a big Pokemon that's kind of self-sufficient with its ability. You don't have another V-Star power in here to begin with, so you kind of have that going for you. And it gives you the ability to have like a good turn to attacker through the Palkia if you can't quite get your Gholdengo there, or that's all you need is to like KO, I don't know, some like one prize Pokemon. You don't need Gholdengo to attack with. This also preserves your Gholdengos, which means you preserve your draw power for later in the game. But also you play Greninja in the Gholdengo deck because it's a great source of draw power, and that gives you access to the attack for Greninja for the 90/90 snipe, which, I mean, yeah, it's just like another thing your opponent has to play around. Your opponent doesn't want to have to bench Manaphy against a Gholdengo deck. Like, that's just like absurd. No one wants to do that. So yeah, it's a pretty cool inclusion in here. This is a list I definitely want to try out. And if you're watching this video the day it releases, I'll probably try this deck out later on the stream today, actually. So, and if not, a video will make its way up to onto the YouTube channel eventually with this 60. And then the one with Melodic, we can't skip over the one with Melodic here, of course. The Melodic's ability protects you and your hand from your opponent's trainer cards, or supporter cards, excuse me, not trainer cards. So you can't Avery the bench, and the bigger one is you can't get Iono'd, Roxanne, or Judged. If they play Iono, Roxanne, or Judge, they still complete their side of the card, but your hand does not get affected. So if you have a 20 card hand and you get Roxanne, you just keep your 20 card hand. So Gholdengo, really heavily reliant on cards in hand. You need a lot of energy to take big knockouts. And yeah, Melodic helps you preserve that big hand for as long as possible until they KO the Melodic. But if they go to the way they KO the Melodic, hey, they're KOing a one prize Pokemon. That puts them on odd prize cards all of a sudden. And now maybe you have +1 turn to play the game, to complete the game. So really cool build of Gholdengo here. Really excited to try it out. Like I said, the Greninja's in here, and they got Manaphy to protect our bench as well. Getting into the item cards, I guess, you know, Pokestop heavy build. And with the Pokestop build, which is kind of cool, the cool combo you can do is you can play Worker as well. So you can use Pokestop, play Worker, discard your own Pokestop, and then put another Pokestop in play, and then use that Pokestop. So it's a really cool combo to see a ton of cards on one turn. And there's a ton of items in here as well, of course. Most of our gust effects are coming from the cross switchers, and then we need to find our superiors, Super Rod, Superior Energy Retrieval, the Vessels of Well to find energy as well initially. And there is one letter of encouragement here as well to help us get that initial energy into the hand to start taking those big knockouts with the Gholdengo. Yeah, so really cool build. Definitely excited to try it out. And also there's some Iridas in here, which helps us find our very impactful item cards like the letter in the early game or the superiors as the game progresses, but also does find water Pokemon. So it synergizes with finding the items we need turn to turn, helps us set up our Palkia, our Melodic, find our Greninja early, find the Manaphy early, maybe if we need to protect our bench. So yeah, there's actually a lot of synergy with the Irida. The Palkia feels a little bit out of place, but when you kind of tie everything together, it's like, okay, it's a nice early game attacker. It gives us the option of the attack on the Greninja, and then if we add a couple Iridas in here, we have that many more water Pokemon we can find with the Iridas while we're finding our item off the Irida. Yeah, it kind of like ties everything together really nicely, and it feels like it adds just enough synergy among everything to kind of make it make sense. But yeah, the Gholdengo list is sick. In the top 8, some more interesting builds for sure. Let's take a look at this. The Arceus Zeraora. I don't know what to think about this. Arceus heard that Lost Piles were starting to be called Lost Piles, and it wanted to reclaim its name of Arc Pile, and this is what came out of it. 4/4 Arceus, so we're trying to get that turn to Arceus. And then there's the Zeraoras in here, which, yeah, I mean, they're interesting. They don't feel like super powerful. The most powerful thing about them is the Zeraora's V-Star attack, which allows you to put 60 damage on 4. You get to do 60 damage 4 times. Basically, you activate the V-Star power, you get to do 60 damage 4 times. That's the V-Star power of the Zeraora. And we actually saw it happen in one of the games in the day 2 matches from the Arceus player. The Zeraora VMAX for, was it, I think 2 lightning and a color, so you do 240 damage, and then you discard 2 energy from the Zeraora, and then the first attack from the Zeraora V-Star is doing 190, and then discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon, I believe. And of course, we got Flying Pikachu in here as well. Flying Pikachu, good against Miraidon. Zeraora, just kind of a neutral attacker in general, I guess, in the meta overall. And then Arceus, of course, very powerful neutral attacker in general as well. There's also the Ditto in this build as well, so they love the Ditto over in Japan. I do kind of like the Ditto. It increases your odds of opening Arceus V effectively. Either you open an Arceus V or you open Ditto, which becomes the Arceus V, or you open Flying Pikachu and you retreat into Arceus V, and then you can get off that turn 1 Trinity charge, because I think you are trying to save your V-Star power. You're actually like not trying to use Starbirth. It feels like you're trying to save the V-Star power for the Arceus V-Star. You're trying to use the Arceus V-Star's V-Star power, but the only way to really set up the Zeraora V-Star is through Trinity Nova. But what I was like watching them play this and thinking about, it's like, okay, if Zeraora is the star of the deck, what if Zeraora plus Generators is actually just good? That's like was my thought process there. What if Zeraora plus Generators is actually just good? Something to think about, because I only ever tried to make Zeraora work with Flaffy before we got Electric Generator. But we do have Electric Generator now, and I'm not saying it's better than Miraidon, but is it the best way to play Zeraora is with Arceus, or is it with Electric Generator? I don't know. Other things in this list to take a look at: Path Center build, Judges, Ionos, of course, the Disruption, Classic Arceus, Judge, Hand Disruption Supporter, 3 V-Guard Energy, teched for the Tina matchup. You know, they got their Star Requiem whenever they want, but we're trying to take away their possibilities of their lost impacts. And then there's a canceling cloning here as well to pull off the Zeraora's V-Star attack. Even if your opponent puts Manaphy in play, boss it up, hit him with the clone, take him out from there. This might be a little bit hard to set up to like find this canceling clone without using Starburst. That's like the only thing I see here. It's like, okay, Starburst for canceling clone plus boss, that's easy. But then we use our V-Star power, so we can't use Zeraora's V-Star power. So we gotta like naturally draw into the canceling clone. But there is 4 boss in here, so getting the boss, the easy part. Finding that one of canceling clone seems like it could be tough. But if the game goes on long enough, we'll get there eventually. Yeah, so Arc Pile back on the map with this one. The other top 8 deck is the Urshifu Iron Valiant. The Urshifu Iron Valiant deck. Not the Entei. Usually we've been seeing Entei be the more successful of the builds, but Urshifu stepping up here. Takeaways from this build: no Raihan, no Melanie, so can't back-to-back G-Max Rapid Flows. They're going with the Luminous Energy build, so they have the Radiant Charizard in here as like a late-game heavy hitter. And then I guess like another thing that stood out to me is the 3 Urshifu VMAX. This is actually something I felt in my testing with this deck as well. It was like, I want more Urshifus, but I always want the VMAX. The VMAXs get discarded so aggressively because of the research. We're not playing like the Entei build where everything's a basic, so we can just kind of put down. We can put down Urshifu Vs aggressively, but then if we play research for turn, we have Urshifu VMAX in our hand. It's got to go, which we don't want to have happen, so we don't want that to go. Yeah, nothing else too much to make mention about this kind of classic Iron Valiant deck. You know, 12 switch cards. Colress, there's a worker in here. The town stores, of course, in this build, because in the Entei build, you need to play the Magma Basins. Ionos, yeah, a lot of supporters, to be honest, actually. 4 research, 3 Iono, 3 Colress, and a worker. And then for the tool cards, I was actually kind of surprised to only see 1 TM Diva, because I think it's a big part of your matchups against stuff like the Charizard and the Gardevoir. But yeah, only 1 TM Diva is a little bit of a surprise. But the Charizard matchup is still going to be pretty good. As long as you don't prize the 1 TM Diva, you're still going to be in a really good spot against the Charizard and probably the Gardevoir as well. The Gardevoir matchup is a little bit more interesting because the VMAX is weak to Psychic, of course. So if they just get that 1 Guardy online swinging, it can kind of start to run through your board. But yeah, Urshi, Iron, Valiant. Getting down to the top 16 decks, we have 4 more decks to take a look at here. Start with the Tina. Once again, Cleansing Gloves making its way into another list. Really good in the Guardy matchup and the Mew matchup for Tina. Allows you to get to that 310 to KO Mew VMAX and 310 to KO the Guardy EX. So good for both of those matchups. But yeah, nothing too special here at all. Plays the Water Energy. It's just another lost Tina list. They do play the 2 Counter Catcher 2 boss, which I haven't seen lately at all. 2 Counter Catcher 2 boss. Also only 1 Roxanne. I guess those are the standouts for me here. Usually we're seeing the 2 Roxanne before the 2 Iono, and then usually we see either 2 boss, 1 Counter Catcher, or 2 Counter Catcher, 1 boss. So those are things that stand out to me here as being like something a little bit different, but lost Tina. Also, Pidgeot, not too much to talk about here. The one thing I will mention about this Pidgeot build and kind of in the tournament in general is a lot of people played TM Devo in their Charizard decks, which was interesting. Now, I really like the Justified Gloves as a tech card in the Charizard deck for the Charizard matchup, for the mirror match. But we saw a lot of people playing the TM Devos. Almost every Charizard I think I saw was playing TM Devo, which was kind of crazy, a little wild. But it's definitely very good in the mirror match. Like theoretically, you can play the mirror match where you just like punch everything in play and then go Iono TM Devo at the end of the game. Because if you're not taking knockouts, they can't really one-hit KO stuff. So you can punch their Charizard and then boss punch their Pidgeot and then boss punch another Charizard and then Iono TM Devo. Now you only draw like 3 prize cards at that point, but if you completely devastate your opponent's board, probably going to be in a fine spot. And also TM Devo's good against Gardevoir. I was starting to think of like a way you can like play against Gardevoir now to play it a little bit slower. That still seems tough, but theoretically, because Charizard one-hit KOs everything, we're trying not to draw prize cards to activate Reversal Energy. You could start attacking with Pidgeot EX against Gardevoir and like punch Guard EX for 120, and then you know their Shiny Arcana is damaging itself, and then maybe we punch another Guard EX, or we counter catcher a Curlia, KO that for a turn if they're ahead on prize cards, and then we go Iono TM Devo. So I don't even know if it works against Gardevoir, to be honest, but like theoretically in my head I was like, okay, I could see it working out again. I mean, the mirror match for sure, against Gardevoir, maybe a little bit less. But yeah, the TMD was very interesting. It seems like a mirror match tech, and it might be better than the Justified gloves, to be honest. I'm actually just not quite sure, but yeah, theoretically, it does seem better than it. And it does have some potential utility against Gardevoir. Even if you're not trying to go for a whole like board wipe de-evolve play, you could still go like, you know, if they candied out their Gardevoir EX and they will go Shiny Arcana 1-hit KO your Charizard, you could be like, okay, push up my Mew for the turn. You can leave a 1 prizer in the active as well when you use the TM Devo. Iono them, TM Devo, KO their Shiny Arcana effectively, and then also put the Gardevoir EX back in their hand because it was rare candied, which means now that to get another Gardevoir EX in play and a Shiny Arcana, they got to probably rare candy something out again. It's going to be a little bit hard to do once they're getting Iono. So good in the late game against Gardevoir for sure. Better than any other tool card, to be honest. But that's only if they like candied up a bunch of Guardies or something like that, which they might not do, or if they know you play it, they might play around it. But yeah, it's really the only standout thing here, I guess I would say. Oh, also they got the new Charmeleon over there. So they were playing not really in a different format, a little bit different. They just have all of the cards we're going to be getting in Paldean Fates already. So we're going to get those in about a month. So they got this Charmeleon in here that ignores the effects of attacks done to it, so it can't be Sableye and it can't be TM Devo, which is interesting. But still also can be level balled for, which is really, really sick. You see the 2 level ball in there as well. Mentioned the Lost Tina. Arctina, haven't seen this. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. Nothing crazy though. V-Guard in here for the matchup against the Lost Tinas. 4 Judge, 4 Iono, 4 Path. Yeah, nothing crazy, nothing wild. There's a capturing aroma in here, which is kind of cool. The deck does just kind of want to find Pokemon. That's one of its problems, is finding Pokemon in the early game. So capturing aroma helps a little bit with that. But yeah, not too much to say here. Arctina. And a Gardevoir. I think there's at least one other Gardevoir that did make top 16. So still had a pretty good showing from the Gardevoir, of course. Not too much to stand out here as well, I don't think. They do have the Moonlight Hill, which is a new stadium card. We're going to be getting this as well in the Paldean Fates. Discard a Psychic Energy from your hand, heal 30 damage from each of your... It might be just Psychic Pokemon. I actually don't remember for sure. It's either Psychic Pokemon or all Pokemon, but that's what it does. Removes that from your Pokemon. So it allows you to use Shiny Arcana to take bigger knockouts without needing reversal energy, so you don't have to be as far, you don't have to be behind in the game to be taking KOs. But yeah, pretty much everything is pretty standard here. They are going like a little bit more research heavy of a build with the 2 research. Still have the Avery. I guess it is interesting to see 2 research with no pal pad, because like researching away your boss or your Ionos in the early game, or a lot of supporters in the early game, can be kind of annoying. But it probably overall like kind of evens out anyways. It's not like that big of a deal to give up some resources. You still have their super odds, of course, to recover any Pokemon you discard early. 3 Shiny Arcana in here as well, so a little bit heavier on the Shiny Arcana. They still have the Cresselia and the Screamtail. We saw a couple different builds playing the triple Shiny Arcana. Yeah, there was a couple different people playing the triple Shiny Arcana, which is definitely interesting. It is a card you want to get online a lot, and from most of the gameplay I saw from the Gardevoirs, they were all playing for like that Mirage Step, and that's the way that feels like Gardevoir gameplay has been leaning towards in general. It's just like turn 2 Mirage Step, go from there. So yeah, 3 Shiny Arcanas kind of makes sense. You have a lot more options, a lot more outs to getting multiple Shiny Arcanas in play turn 2, because you have Ralts that can be candied, a bunch of Curlias in play, and now you have more Shiny Arcanas to turn those Ralts and Curlias into Shiny Arcanas. I guess like another thing is they only play 3 Battle VIP Pass. I never know how to feel about 3 Battle VIP Pass, but it is there. But with Mirage Step, it's definitely less important to have Battle VIP Pass, I guess. Chalk that one up. But yeah, nothing too crazy in the Gardevoir build. And that's all the top 16 lists we have right now. We can take a look at the senior list, I guess, here real fast. Senior League. I assume this means it's their senior division champion. Can't imagine it would be anything else. Unless they mean like senior, like older people. Like being like a senior in America can mean you're either playing the PokemonTCG in the senior division, or you guys know what I'm saying. Anyways, Rapid Strike, nothing too crazy. There's a counter catcher in here, which we don't see too often. Counter catcher in here, which you don't see too often, but I kind of like it. You do have the Irida. There's no Arven in this build, but there's a town store. And I don't know how to feel about the town store, to be honest. Like, the town store could just be another Forest Seal Zone, but it isn't increased out to Paths of the Peak. So if that's what they were going for, it's like, I want more outs to Paths of the Peak. 4 Tower of Water is kind of redundant. Let's get something else in there. Let's like switch it up a little bit. Then the town store kind of makes sense if that's kind of their reasoning for that. They have the Drapion here as well. Tech for that Mew matchup. Drapion plus Clara can be pretty good against Mew. Also, mostly because a lot of Mew players don't play the Lost City anymore. So one Drapion plus the Clara can kind of get you there. Against them sometimes. You have Luminion to find the Clara more aggressively as well, so you can go like Drapion, Clara, Drapion, and the Artillery can find your Tower of Waters to bump Path every time, so that way the Drapion can attack. So yeah, with no Lost City in Mews right now, to be honest, the Drapion in the Rapid Strike deck is like a pretty okay answer, especially if the double turbo Mews are playing that fusion energy. Now, fusion Mew, I think you still just get wrecked by as Rapid Strike. Whether you got Drapion or don't got Drapion, you're probably getting wrecked. But if you're trying to beat the double turbo Mews and they're playing the fusion energy to counter the Spiritomb, then you can kind of one-up them and add the Drapion, have the Clara combo to kind of one-up them. Because if they have like the double fusion like we saw on this other list up here, they're usually beating Rapid Strike. Like the two, even if you have Spiritomb and Rapid Strike, if they got like 2 fusion energy and Mew, they're beating you. The matchup's that bad. They only need a couple fusions. They can manually attach them. They don't even need the Sparkle or anything like that. So then you one-up them with the Drapion Clara. Kind of like it if that's like kind of the evolution of that matchup back and forth, the fusions and the Drapions. But that's all the lists from the Champions League. This site I'm on is called, was it Pokabook? I don't know if that's how you pronounce that or anything, but I'll leave the link for this site in the description so y'all can reference it. There's a lot of results from tournaments that happen in Japan on this site. Not just the Champion Leagues, but they have their City Leagues and Gym Battle Trainer Leagues. All tournament results from Japan are posted on this website. So if you want to see what's going on over in Japan, especially when they get the new cards before we do, which they will be in January, they're going to be getting a lot of cool cards that we won't get until March. And if you want to see what the Japan's cooking before we get the cards, then yeah, this is the site to go to. So I'll leave a link for this site in the description as well. Hope y'all enjoyed the video and my breakdown of the decks, kind of talking about the list that did well here, Champions League Kyoto, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.